This is a video from Dr. Frank Turek responding to an angry student on a college campus. Now, this video has definitely been reviewed on the internet before by other guys, but I think there's an angle that many are missing, and I think it's an important takeaway for actually all of us, whether you're an atheist or a believer. Stick around to the end. Let's dive into the video.
Dr. Turek, God commanded you to murder your wife or children to prove your faith in God. Is your current devotion not enough to prove your faith? Must you murder your children as Abraham was instructed?
First of all, I don't know what I would do.
This is a simple yes or no question, Doc.
I don't know what I would do in Abraham's position. That's a good question. You know who really struggled with that? Soren Kierkegaard, who wrote a book called...
Is your faith strong enough to murder your own children or wife?
I'm thinking, and since I'm from New Jersey, it's really hard for me to do, so give me a minute. The book is called Fear and Trembling by Soren Kierkegaard. So I don't know what I would do, just like I'm never going to say if somebody put a gun to my head or a gun to my wife's head, what would you do? Because Peter tried that. I'll never deny you, Lord. And what did he do?
He denied him 3 times. Yes, at the crucifixion.
I don't know what I would do, okay? But let me point out, if your friend is an atheist, there's nothing wrong with God doing anything, because by atheism, there's no standard of right and wrong anyway. So in order for you to bring up the objection, you're actually stealing a standard from God in order to try and say God doesn't exist.
Dr. Turek, I'm only asking if you would murder your wife or children to prove your devotion. It's a simple question.
I don't know what would happen. And by the way, when God decides that someone should die, it's not murder for him, because God kills all of us at some point. And he's the only one that can resurrect us. So we don't have the right to murder people, but God has the right to kill people anytime he wants. He can strike me down today, tomorrow, anytime he wants, and it's completely in his prerogative.
God has the right to slaughter the Amalekites down to the last man, woman, and child.
God has the right to take us out anytime we want, because if Christianity's true, men don't really die, we just change location. And God can do that anytime he wants. So thank you for your question.
It is stunning to me that massacre and genocide gets applaud in this building. God demands slaughter, massacre, and genocide.
All right, Cody, there's nothing wrong with genocide if atheism's true.
Are you serious?
If atheism's true, there is nothing wrong with genocide.
I am an atheist and I oppose genocide in every every way.
But that's just your personal opinion, because there's no standard beyond you which says it's wrong.
The standard that says is correct, that I will help my fellow human up to and including you, especially you, doctor, that I would never harm anyone in this room.
Okay, I'm glad.
Atheism,
Cody,
are you suggesting that atheism allows or purports or wants genocide? I know you wouldn't say, you would never say that.
Yes, atheism does allow it. You can ask Mao, you can ask Stalin, you can ask Pol Pot, because if there is no authority beyond the government, they are God.
I could not possibly agree. I could not possibly disagree that those people were atheists. But as Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens would both argue, as you well know, none of those people slaughtered millions in the name of atheism. There are countless millions.
All right, Cody, this isn't a debate, okay?
I know.
I thank you for being here.
Doc.
But let me deal, because Cody, I love talking about this stuff, but there's a line of people behind you, and so we can't keep going back and forth. But I do want to answer your question about the Canaanites.
Is God immoral for massacre, slaughter, and racism and slavery?
Cody, look, we don't have time to deal with all those. Trust me, I have slides for every one of them, okay? Let me just deal with the Canaanite one, if you'd be so gracious as to sit down.
I would be so gracious. Thank you, doctor.
And I'll deal with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, doctor.
All right, thank you. So, as I just mentioned, with the Canaanite issue, if there's no God, why would any Old Testament atrocity be wrong? But Cody is correct about this. He has a fair point to ask me, despite the fact that he, being an atheist, has no objective standard by which to judge anything right or wrong. He is correct to ask me, you're saying your God is a God of love, so why does he do such things? So that's a fair question, okay? All right. Secondly, though, is God arbitrary, or does he give reasons in the Old Testament for judging people? Because that's what it is in the Old Testament. It's judging. God is not a cosmic mafia boss. He doesn't wake up one day and say, Canaanites, I want them dead. No, there's a reason that he has decided to push the Canaanites out of the land, and it's because they've had 400 years of iniquity, including murdering their children, sacrificing their children on the molten hot metal god Molech. And it wasn't just the Old Testament that talks about this. The Greek writer Plutarch says that when the Canaanites would do this, the drummers in the town would pound their drums louder so the children or the parents couldn't hear the screams of their own children being sacrificed. Also, I hear this quite a bit. Why complain that God doesn't stop evil, but then complain when he does? In other words, sometimes atheists will say, why didn't God stop such and such a tragedy? Yet here, God sees that this culture is so degraded that he finally says these people must be stopped, and he sends the Israelites in to stop them, and now atheists are complaining about it. And the question I always ask people is God committing murder by ending lives on earth? And the answer is no. God doesn't murder anyone. He can't murder anyone. He is the creator of life. He can resurrect it. Only people who are other creations can commit murder. When God ends somebody's life, it's not murder. And as I mentioned a minute ago, God has the right to usher people into the next life whenever he wants. Whether we're 82 or 2 years old, that's up to him. People never die. They just change location. And we also need to remember that the Old Testament theocracy was unique and temporary. It was not the ideal for all time, but the means to a promised new covenant. And the best book on this topic is by Paul Copan, Is God a Moral Monster? And Cody's actually bringing up good questions that Christians need to deal with. And Copan goes through all of those issues. One is the Canaanites, another slavery, these kinds of issues. And you can get that book if you want to go further. But this is not genocide. It's actually judgment. Why? How do I know? Because God did the same thing to Israel. God took out the Israelites through the Babylonians and the Assyrians. And he also took out the Israelites after they worshiped the golden calf. It was judgment, not genocide.
All right, poor Cody. This joker just seems like he's having a bad day. He's obviously upset, and I would imagine it's because he probably thinks Christianity is evil, that religion is evil, that God is evil. However, it's pretty clear by their interaction that eventually we learn that Cody has been existing in what many call an echo chamber. An echo chamber is when you exist in a space where it's only voices that are like yours that are talking, or maybe you don't really have any voices and it's just your voice. I'd actually say that's probably where Cody's at. Our biggest clue to this is that he is absolutely puzzled and shocked by Dr. Turek's argument for him stealing morality from a religious worldview. The argument goes like this. Cody says the Bible is evil, that God did evil things in the Bible. Okay, but Cody also says he's an atheist. Okay, so Dr. Turek's argument goes something like this, and it's an age-old argument. You are positing that there is a moral good and a moral evil, some absolute objective law that is written on all of our hearts that we just know there is a moral good in the universe. Cody would say, yes, there are things that are just intrinsically good and things that are intrinsically evil, like he's talking about with the Amalekites. However, Cody, being an atheist, believes in evolution, which you can be a theist and believe in evolution. I think evolution is probably true. Okay, but if evolution is true outside of God, that there's not deistic evolution, that means that your view of morality, your view of good and evil are not objective, but they are things that evolved over time to help us with society. And that's all well and good, but that doesn't mean it's objectively true. That doesn't mean there is some standard. And what it could mean is that maybe there is some space and time, some other place where it is totally, completely moral to wipe out the Amalekites, to have a Holocaust, to abuse little children. And I know when you're listening to that, when Cody hears those things, he's like, absolutely not. But that's what we're saying. If our moral laws only come from evolution over time and no moral lawgiver that transcends our experience, that transcends us, that transcends even evolution, if that's not where they're coming from, then it has to be subjective, not objective. And there might be a space and time where some of those things aren't wrong. Every human on the planet knows this isn't true. Here's the problem. Cody apparently doesn't know this, that there are many people in his camp, Alex O'Connor from Cosmic Skeptic, Richard Dawkins, the late Christopher Hitchens, who, when Dr. Turek and others have espoused these views, have made these arguments, they will say, you're right. That is true. That morality is subjective, not objective. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't follow it, and they go on the whole reasoning, but at the end of the day, you have to say, yeah, you're right. It's subjective. And Cody, poor Cody, has been in an echo chamber, probably of his own design, where he has not heard these arguments. And then you stand in front of somebody like Dr. Turek, who's an intellectual, who's debated the best of the best, and you end up, I'm not trying to be rude, but you end up looking foolish. Now here's the thing, Christian, you can do this too. We as believers can be guilty of this all the time, where we get in an echo chamber. We haven't really wrestled through both sides. We watch one little YouTube video of our famous preacher, our famous teacher or whatever, and then we go and argue with somebody, and then they start to lobby things at us, and you do exactly what Cody did. Instead of coming back with good arguments or reasoning, you get angry, you just repeat the same things over and over again, and you end up looking unintelligent. Now, I'm not trying to call Cody stupid. He seems like a smart guy. He just hasn't done his work here. It's clear. Okay, Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Alex O'Connor, they have arguments to this. Cody doesn't. He gets triggered, he gets angry, he gets frustrated, and it's because he's lived in an echo chamber. On this channel, I want to help equip believers. You as a believer need to not live in an echo chamber. You need to listen to both sides. We've done a lot of stuff on this channel about deconstruction and how it's a bad word, but I actually think it's a good thing that we should wrestle with our faith, hear both sides of the argument, so you don't just put your head in the sand, put your fingers in your ears, live in an echo chamber. Don't do that. Listen to both sides, wrestle with the evidence. Appreciate you guys for watching. Check out more videos down here. We'll be releasing some every single week. And I'll check you guys later. Bye.